Hello everybody, welcome back to the RoundSquare channel. My name is Doyle, and today we are doing a speed build in The Sims 4. And it's been a hot little minute since I've done a speed build, so this will be something a little bit different, I suppose. In fact, to be perfectly honest, this whole architectural design is something very different to what I would tend to go for. Basically, I saw a picture on my Twitter feed of a really nice sort of modern take on a brutalist architectural style, and I really liked it, so I wanted to sort of create something of that similar thing. And as well as this, I've been playing some Mass Effect lately as well, and I actually took a lot of inspiration for the design of this from who is it? Is it General Anderson's apartment in the Citadel DLC in Mass Effect 3? I'm not sure. I don't know. I haven't finished 3, so it's all new territory for me. But regardless, yeah, I decided to try and take some of those really ultra-modern, semi-industrial looking tones to this. So there's a lot of copper, a lot of greys, and earthy tones as well, so that's pretty interesting. And to be honest, I've never really done anything like this sort of style, to be fair. It's I tend to go for, I mean, I do a lot of like modern builds, but certainly nothing like this. I don't really know how to describe what I do. I mean, to be perfectly honest, this ended up being a lot bigger than I'd intended. This ended up being a freaking mansion, and I thought that this was going to be, it's going to be like a really wealthy family home. It's going to have 3 bedrooms or something, a master and 2 singles or something, and in the end it's ended up being a freaking mansion, and purely because of the placement of the stairs. And you can see here, this is where I took one of the main inspirations from that apartment in Mass Effect, actually, and that's just having the little sort of like pebble walkways, and I don't know, it's just a really nice touch that I liked. I think later on I put like a waterfall on there, maybe? I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, for me the important thing for this build was to capture the actual base shape from the reference photo I saw. Maybe I'll put it up, I don't know. If I'm feeling edgy, I'll put it up so that you can see what I'm talking about. But knowing me, probably not. But yeah, what it meant is that you have this gorgeous 2-story open living room space, and I could, all that really strikes me is just the sheer amount of natural light that must flood into there. Yes, I took one look at it and thought, yes, that's what I want to do. But you can see, yeah, this is where I realised, oh wait, no, I have to really expand this. And in the end it became essentially like a brutalist complex. But I was pretty happy with how it turned out, I think. But yes, something a little bit different. So yes, I really wanted to put a lot of emphasis into the into gaining as much natural light as possible, and having this sort of really hard contrast between the concrete, thick walls, and then nothing but glass to just let in as much light as possible. But you can see that I'm starting to lay out the upper floors here, and this honestly gave me so much difficulty because I wanted this to be a professional's home. It was going to have a home office, it was going to have like a meeting room or something. I don't know, I kind of thought maybe the main person who lived here was an architect or some kind of big business person. But I also wanted it to be a family home, and the layout just would not work for me, so yeah, that's why it's ended up being like 3 times the size of what it was intended to be, but, it turned out okay, I hope, in the end. Oh yes, and I also wanted to try and experiment with putting in some glass ceilings as well, glass roof, to try and let in as much light as possible, especially in, like, this is a bathroom I'm doing here, where it's not actually going to get any light because it wasn't on an exterior wall, it was all completely enclosed. What else? I'll tell you what, I'm actually so terrible at doing these, because I never know what to say. I was debating whether or not I should actually do the progress, the actual build itself, or whether I should just keep it as the cameras at the end to show what it looks like, because I'm terrible at talking on these things, and I never know what to say. I try like, yes, this is a house going up, and these are some walls, and oh yes, that's a bit of furniture I put down, but yeah, I don't know. So, who knows? And to be perfectly honest, I'm stricken with so much verbal diarrhea from this isolation that it is quite possible that I have gone legally insane. And I think it for me has been it's been 6 or 7. No, that can't be 7 weeks. About 6 weeks or something. I started isolating a week before the lockdown occurred, basically. So I'm a little bit itchy, shall we say, for social interaction. But that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. I have the internet, and the internet is my true friend. I say, sobbing into my elbows. Anyway, so yes, one of the main things that I wanted to put on the ground floor to make good use of the space was I had this idea that because it was such a big house that the family would also have a guest suite as well for when they had visitors around, because I wanted it to be a very big and open social space. And so yeah, I tucked in this little sort of annex on the ground floor, which worked out quite nicely, which just adjoins onto the kitchen and sort of like the main living areas. And I like to imagine, you'll see later on, I've put in a little sort of like a spa. There's a hot tub, basically. I'll leave it at that. There is a hot tub in the back room, and I like to imagine that when there was no one staying there, then the family would use that little guest bathroom to change and to have a shower afterwards, and yeah, I don't know. That's just how I see people living there, because a lot of the time, I don't know, growing up, I knew a lot of people who lived on, like, making expansions, and they genuinely didn't need to. They were just doing it for a show of wealth, and as a result, nothing that they would build would ever get used, so they would just use their own things instead. Yeah, so this is the master suite now, and I wanted to have a little reading nook in the corner, especially where there's all the light. But I also wanted to try and keep everything, I don't know, there's certainly like a theme to this house. It's all very modern, and I've kept the colours relatively simple. I've kept them relatively similar to each other, I should say. And honestly, it's a lot darker than I would tend to go for in a lot of my houses, but then that's why I really wanted to emphasise just how much light was coming in, because I wanted it to look very industrial and very postmodern, but also still feel very welcoming. There's supposed to be this eclectic mixture of nature and industry, which hopefully transfers somewhat well. I don't know, but if nothing else, the important thing is these people are rich. That's the important bit. Oh yeah, and this is the child's room. I imagine this family having a young boy, a young son, and he has this tiny little single room, but I've really tried to sort of make full use of the space. It still has a lot of light, it's got a skylight built in, and I tried to make it seem, I don't know, as bougie as possible, all things considered, to make use of the awkward space that this poor child is living in. But, you know, this kid's got a pretty good room, let's be perfectly honest. I wouldn't mind staying there. I think that would be pretty cool. And then we have this sort of little conservatory, and one thing that I knew I wanted right from the get-go was that was going to join onto the home office on the top. So I figured that the person, I don't know, I kind of envisaged him as an architect. I'm not entirely sure, but I imagined him having his little office where he could work from home, and you know, if he didn't fancy going down to the studio, I don't know, assuming that's what architects do, maybe. I'm not entirely sure. But yes, I just wanted it to be as ultra-modern as possible. In fact, I think I took a lot of inspiration for the office from things like Mirror's Edge. So there's a lot of, like, whites and blacks and the artwork against the back wall sort of speaks for itself, for the mood I'm trying to create. And, this is probably one of my favourite parts of the house. sort of this balcony which overlooks the main living area on the ground floor, and I wanted it to be sort of like a little relaxation area. You could sit down there, lounge and read a book or something, or just maybe listen to music, and I basically just put plants here. Lots and lots and lots of plants. And if anybody has seen any of my other Sims stuff in the past, I love putting plants in. I freaking love plants. So this was kind of like very much the sort of the stark contrast, the industrial and the natural fighting for dominance. That inside this house there's still a little tiny aspect where there's going to be where all the nature is still taking over, if that makes sense. It's not being forgotten. And I think this was for I imagine this being a teenage girl's room. So she has a double bed, and she's a little bit more, I don't know, she sort of flaunts her personality a little bit more than just having the ultra sleek modern design of the rest of the house. So, you know, I tried to make the textiles a little bit louder and add a little bit more colour to things. Not much, mind. Still wanted to keep it relatively in sync with everything else, but just give it a little bit of personality. Because at the end of the day, she is still an individual, she's coming into her own, you know, she's at that age where she's developing her own tastes, and she's had her own experiences, and maybe doesn't quite want to be the same as mum and dad, or maybe it's just dad, or maybe it's just mum. I don't know, I have not thought that far ahead. Regardless, they have money, I can't stress that enough. Oh god, the curtains. God, I forgot about the curtains. This is what people want to see in a video, putting up curtains. It's just so interesting. But, you know, the curtains make an important part of the personality of a room, so, you know, that's important. That's very important. Right, oh yes, so back into the main living space downstairs. And I really sort of struggled with, although I wanted it to be open plan, I didn't like the fact that the living room was very much right next to the main entrance, and there was no partition. And I knew for a fact that I wanted to put aquariums somewhere in the house. So, yeah, you could see I decided to move all the aquariums, which I was going to put in the living room, and put it into what was originally a little cinema room, but it just didn't make sense to have double TVs, so I tried to make like a little spa at the back. That does change, though, because I think when I recorded it, I just had fish tanks in there, but I really didn't like how it looked in first person, so I think I swapped that out for just some, like, waterfalls or something, just tiny little, something a bit more subtle, shall we say, a little less garish. And now you can see I really struggle to fill some of the more empty spaces of the living space, but I do finally decide on how to divvy up the living room. And of course, the part of the build where I just basically lose all drive is always doing the garden and the landscaping, so, you know, you're not going to see much of that, and to be honest, there's not much to see in the build should you wish to download it. But one thing I was quite happy with was this little coffee table, which I made by using smaller surfaces, which, I don't know, for some weird reason, some of them, like, layer on top of each other. I don't know what the purpose of that is, but I just kind of combined a few of them just to make it look a little bit more ultra sleek and modern. And I tell you what, actually, there's a reason that I've left doing the walls and the floors practically to the very end, and that's because I really struggled with it in this house, because so much of the flooring I thought, well, a lot of it's just going to be concrete, but that was so boring, and I thought, no, there has to be texture to the house at least, it can't just be a shell. For the most part, I've kind of kept it with having sort of plain, maybe like slightly painted walls or like a feature wall, and then kept everything else just really bland. But I think in one or two rooms I sort of give, like, I think, yeah, you can see in like the children's room there, a little bit more personality to it, because it was just so boring. Honestly, I think I always struggle with that sort of thing. I think I tend to furnish my houses before I actually paint the walls and do the flooring, but yeah, never really thought about that before. Very interesting, very interesting. But yes, because this house sort of deviated a little bit from the original reference that I was trying to do, I've kept the reference, and basically I want to do a few more builds with different variations. Different variations of that style. Maybe not something quite so much of a residential complex as an actual family home. Oh yeah, I forgot I put what's it called? I just wanted to try and put as much greenery as possible on the roof to kind of show a little harmony between the two. Anyway, things are about to wrap up for now, so thank you everybody so much for checking this out. I really do appreciate it. I hope you're all staying safe in these very strange and troubling times, and I will see you in the next video. Have an amazing day, everyone.